The moment I stepped into the grand living room, my pulse quickened, not from nerves, but from the weight of the room's expectations. Crystal chandeliers scattered light across polished floors, and laughter mingled with the soft clinking of glasses. I straightened my silk blouse, smoothing the slight crease near my wrist, feeling the familiar contrast between comfort and command. My children were nearby, radiant in their tiny formal attire, oblivious to the murmurs swirling around us. Then it happened. My sister, standing across the room with that sly half-smile she always reserved for me, leaned toward a group of relatives and whispered something so sharp it cut through the hum of the party. Honestly, I don't know how she even manages her kids. They're so unusual. Time slowed. My stomach knotted, but I forced my face into a polite smile, the kind that had taken years to perfect. My mind raced, replaying her words over and over, feeling the sting not just for me, but for my children, the heart of my world. Pride, hurt, and disbelief tangled together. Yet beneath it all, I felt that quiet pulse of resilience, the one that had carried me this far without anyone realizing how far I'd truly come. I glanced out the floor-to-ceiling windows at the city lights, shimmering like distant stars, and inhaled slowly. The party was loud, vibrant, and oblivious to the quiet storm gathering within me. My phone buzzed, a reminder, a message, anything, but I didn't check it yet. Right now, I needed to observe, to wait, to let the room take in my composure before the real confrontation even began. Years ago, before I had built this life, I was a different version of myself, fragile, uncertain, constantly measured against my sister's sharp judgment. Back then, even the smallest remark from her felt like a verdict, and her disapproval was suffocating. I remember one night vividly. I had invited her over to meet my newborn son, Daniel, hoping for warmth, maybe even encouragement. Instead, she stood in the doorway, arms crossed, head tilted, and said, "You really think you can handle this on your own? Don't be naive." I felt my chest tighten, a lump forming in my throat, as if her words had physically lodged there. My hands shook slightly while I tried to soothe the baby in my arms. The sting of being dismissed, by someone who was supposed to care, was unbearable. I wanted to scream, to argue, to make her see that I wasn't helpless, but the words caught somewhere between my teeth and my fear of shattering the fragile peace I'd managed to maintain. It wasn't just her words, it was the underlying message I'd heard my whole life, that I wasn't enough. Not smart enough, not strong enough, not capable enough. For years, I had carried this weight quietly, letting it shape my actions, my choices, my sense of self. But that night, something shifted. My grandmother, a woman of quiet strength, had visited just before my sister arrived. She had pressed a small, worn leather notebook into my hands and whispered, "Your strength doesn't have to be loud. Let it grow quietly, and one day it will speak for you." I held that notebook close to my chest, feeling the weight of her faith settle like a warm mantle over my shoulders. I remember the first decision I made after that, leaving a job that had no future, moving into a small apartment with Daniel by my side, determined to forge a life where our worth wouldn't be dictated by anyone else. I didn't tell my sister, of course. She didn't need to know that her judgment had ignited the fire that would one day make me untouchable. That night marked the turning point. I chose independence over approval, resilience over despair, and love over fear. And as I moved through those early, shaky steps alone, I tucked my grandmother's words into my heart, carrying them like a secret map to the life I was destined to build. After that night with my grandmother's notebook pressed to my chest, I threw myself into building a life that belonged solely to me and my children. I started small, freelance projects, late-night online courses, any opportunity that could teach me a skill I could monetize. The apartment was modest, cluttered with baby toys and stacks of books, but it became my laboratory, my sanctuary, my proving ground. Then came Marcus. A seasoned marketing executive, he noticed my potential during a networking event. Unlike others, he didn't dismiss me because I was young, female, or a single mother. He saw the spark behind my hesitant smile. "You've got ideas that could move mountains," he said. I laughed, partly in disbelief, partly in hope, and he simply handed me his card. That one gesture became a lifeline. The next few years were relentless. I worked through sleepless nights while Daniel napped on the couch, learning the intricacies of marketing campaigns, client management, and financial planning. Every day brought self-doubt, the echo of my sister's voice lingering at the edge of my thoughts. But each small win, the first client I closed, the first marketing strategy that went viral, the first paycheck that felt substantial, fueled a quiet determination. I began to expand, slowly building a boutique consulting firm from the living room of our tiny apartment. The walls, once bare, now bore sticky notes and flowcharts. My laptop, once a tool for simple freelance gigs, became the engine of something much bigger. Daniel grew up seeing me work, never understanding fully why I disappeared for hours at a time, yet always feeling the underlying current of love and purpose that guided me. And through it all, I kept my family in the dark. I posted photos on social media, modest, curated glimpses of a life that appeared ordinary, careful not to reveal the true scale of my achievements. I didn't crave their approval. I craved independence, the freedom to define my own worth. It was harder than anyone could imagine. I faced skeptics, underestimation, and subtle prejudices daily. Some mornings, I'd wake up with tears stinging my eyes, questioning if it was all worth it, and then I'd look at Daniel's sleepy face, the curl of his hair falling into his forehead, and I'd remember why I started. Every long night, every tiny victory, every quiet sacrifice, it was all for him, for the life we deserved. By the time the party in the present day arrived, I was a woman transformed. My company was thriving, my clients loyal and influential, and my children's lives flourishing in ways even I had once only dreamed of. Yet, no one in my family, least of all my sister, knew the true extent of my success. That secret, that hidden triumph, was mine alone, a shield, a power, and a source of quiet satisfaction. As I watched my sister whisper across the room, a smirk tugging at her lips, I realized how far I had come. She saw only the surface, the familiar face she thought she knew, oblivious to the countless battles, the sleepless nights, and the relentless drive that had brought me here. And in that moment, I understood that the most powerful victories are the ones you quietly earn, without the world, even your own family, witnessing every step. The party hummed with laughter and soft music, yet to me, it felt like a stage. Every glance, every whisper, every subtle tilt of the head carried expectations I had long since discarded, but tonight, I would not simply endure. Tonight, I would let them see the truth. As my sister's eyes flicked toward me again, I took a deep breath, letting my hands rest gently on Daniel's shoulders. My daughter, Emily, stood beside him, her tiny hand tucked into mine. Both of them radiated the same calm confidence I had worked so hard to nurture. The sight was almost poetic, a living testament to my love, my sacrifices, and my resilience. The room shifted when my uncle approached, offering his usual obligatory smile, murmuring about how hard life must be for a single mother. I returned his smile, one that didn't reach the eyes but carried the weight of someone who had quietly conquered more than he could imagine. "Mommy, can I show them our project?" Emily asked softly, holding up a tablet. I nodded. She tapped a few buttons, and the screen came alive with an interactive presentation of our company's latest campaign, complete with statistics, client logos, and revenue charts. The room went still. Whispers rippled, disbelief written across familiar faces. My sister's smirk faltered. Her eyes widened as she realized that the unremarkable life she had mocked was actually thriving beyond her imagination. I stepped forward, letting the warmth of the room wrap around me while I spoke, calm but unwavering. "This is what we've been building," I said, gesturing to the presentation. "Every client, every project, every late night, you never saw it because I didn't need you to. We've done it ourselves, quietly, with dedication and love." I felt the tension crackle like electricity. My sister's mouth opened and closed, searching for words that wouldn't come. I continued, softer now, yet every syllable deliberate. And, my children, they are not unusual. They are remarkable. Curious, creative, resilient, just like their father would have wanted them to be. Her eyes glistened, not with tears, but a mix of shock and a dawning shame. Other family members shifted uncomfortably, realizing they had underestimated the very woman they thought they knew. The whispers turned into silence, broken only by the soft tapping of Emily's fingers on the tablet. I let the moment linger. I didn't need to yell. I didn't need to argue. My life, my success, my children's thriving existence spoke louder than any words. The luxurious apartment, the elegant furnishings, the subtle art pieces I had chosen for their meaning, all of it was a mirror of the journey that had brought me here. Finally, my sister's voice broke the quiet, barely above a whisper. I didn't know. I smiled gently, the kind that held compassion and the acknowledgement of past mistakes, but also the unspoken power that I had earned. Now you do, I said simply, letting her sit with it. In that instant, the dynamic shifted entirely. The sister who once judged, mocked, and dismissed was now confronted with the undeniable reality. I had built a life that no one could diminish, and my children were the brightest reflection of that truth. And in that room, filled with murmurs and glances that were now tinged with respect, I realized that the party had turned, not chaotic, but transformative. I had waited silently for this moment, and now it had arrived. The room felt different now, charged with a new energy. The whispers had softened, replaced by stunned glances and tentative admiration. My sister's previous smirk had vanished entirely, replaced by a wary uncertainty. For the first time in years, the balance of power had shifted, and I held the reins. I took a slow breath, letting the silence stretch just long enough for everyone to understand that I wasn't done speaking. I want to make one thing clear, I began, my voice steady but warm. I can help, but things cannot go back to the way they were. We can have respect, support, and love, but only if the past is acknowledged and the necessary changes are made. Eyes widened, and I knew I had their full attention. My sister, I said, looking directly at her, you will need to learn to treat my children and me with the respect every person deserves. No more judgment, no more whispers behind our backs. You can be part of their lives, but only if you genuinely show kindness and understanding. Her face paled, and I didn't soften my gaze. For the rest of the family, I continued, anyone who wishes to be part of our lives must honor boundaries. Toxic habits, constant criticism, and dismissiveness, those will not be tolerated. If you want to be included, you must commit to change. Support each other, support us, and be present in a way that fosters growth and love, not resentment. I paused, letting the weight of my words sink in. The room was silent, save for the faint hum of the city outside. The chandelier's light caught on Emily's hair as she tugged gently at my hand, a reminder of why I was here, not to punish, but to protect and guide. Consider this an opportunity, I said, softening slightly. Change is never easy, but it is always possible. I'm not holding grudges. I'm offering a chance for all of us to rebuild, in a way that honors our past, but does not let it define our future. We can grow together, but it has to be sincere. Some faces registered relief, others hesitation, but all were listening. My sister shifted uncomfortably, finally meeting my gaze. There was a flicker of recognition, an understanding that this was not the same woman she had dismissed years ago. I had become someone she could neither intimidate nor belittle. I stepped back, letting the room breathe, and allowed a small, genuine smile to cross my lips. Compassion and strength could coexist, and I wanted them to feel it. My children deserved nothing less than a family that respected their worth and mine. And if that required establishing clear rules and firm boundaries, then so be it. In that moment, I realized that power was not just about money, success, or influence. It was about choice. I could choose forgiveness or resentment, engagement or detachment, inclusion or distance. And I chose wisely, For my children, for myself, and for the chance to transform relationships that had long been strained. This was not an act of revenge. It was a declaration. I had survived, I had thrived, and I would no longer tolerate anything that undermined the life I had built, nor the love I had poured into my children. Over the next few weeks, subtle changes began to ripple through the family. My sister, once quick to criticize, started spending genuine time with the kids, asking questions and listening without judgment. My parents, initially skeptical, began acknowledging the effort, commitment, and love I had poured into my children and my life. It wasn't perfect. Old habits lingered, but the shift was undeniable. I watched my children laugh, play, and share stories with relatives who were learning, slowly, to respect boundaries and nurture growth. Daniel proudly showed off a drawing he had created, and Emily recited a poem she had written for the family dinner. In those moments, I realized that the journey I had endured was about more than just personal success. It was about shaping an environment where my children could thrive with confidence, love, and support. I returned to the leather notebook my grandmother had given me years ago, running my fingers over the worn edges. Her words echoed in my mind. Let your strength grow quietly, and one day it will speak for you. I smiled, realizing that the notebook had guided me not just through career battles, but through the intricate dance of family, love, and respect. My grandmother had understood something essential. True power comes from patience, resilience, and unwavering self-belief. That night, as the city lights shimmered outside my window, I reflected on how far I had come. From the young, uncertain woman facing judgment and doubt to the mother, leader, and protector I had become, it was a transformation forged in quiet determination and fierce love. The party had been a catalyst, but the real journey had been inside me all along. I felt a calm satisfaction, the kind that comes from knowing you've defended what matters most, built what no one else could, and faced the past with courage and clarity. My sister's words, once a painful sting, had become a reminder of the obstacles I had overcome, the lessons I had learned, and the family I could now guide toward understanding. As I tucked Emily into bed and kissed Daniel's forehead, I whispered a promise I had always known I would keep, that I would protect, nurture, and empower them, no matter what. And in that quiet moment, I realized that life, in all its chaos and surprise, had a way of rewarding courage, resilience, and love that was quietly, unshakably real. And so, with grace, strength, and a heart full of quiet triumph, I finally allowed myself to smile fully.